Hello, and welcome to this week's Movie Math, where thank the movie gods for Tay-Tay. Well, actually, thank the movie theater gods for Taylor Swift, because Hollywood isn't making any money off of her yet another theatrical release that she just surprise announced. It was a little later than she should have maybe announced it. We're going to talk about Taylor Swift's actual release a little bit later in this video. But I want to talk about the business. So once again, she's not only changing the game, but she's cutting out the middleman and going to theaters directly herself. This is part of a bigger problem Hollywood is having overall. Maybe Tay-Tay inspired them. But, people are wondering, especially this past week, where is Hollywood's spine? Well, their spine... they're having a massive panic attack is what's happening. And let me tell you why. Because do you know what's actually happening in the business? You can see it if you look. And I'm sure Hollywood, they see it. So for the first time ever, distributors, and I'm not just talking movie theaters, but hello, affiliate stations have entered the chat. And they are cutting out Hollywood or threatening to because, and this is the big one, Hollywood is, a good amount of the time now, delivering content that these distributors feel that their customers do not want. Nor is Hollywood consistently delivering enough hits to make the other to balance or erase or make them the distributors not care about the losses. So sure, with the affiliate situation, it's definitely more complicated than that. But make no mistake, this is a big part of this brewing storm. There's reason. I mean, you've heard of movie theaters, but nobody ever talks about affiliate stations until now. And that's because they used to just be the delivery system for network television. They just sat back and let the money roll in. Occasionally you get some kind of station greeting. And I believe they also often produce their local news. But nobody ever talked about them. But the money ain't rolling in anymore. Network television is under real threat. And these affiliate stations feel, from a couple of areas, but these affiliate stations, well, they're not only wanting to expand and they need some laws to be changed to be able to do that. That's a whole different conversation. But, they don't want to die out either. And they can no longer just be silent partners when their own existence is on the line. Up until now, I have to tell you, speaking of partners, I doubt Hollywood even thought of movie theaters and affiliate stations as partners. They were like, here's our content, lucky you. You get to distribute it and get a cut of that revenue. They were just a delivery system. So that to me is very, very interesting. And you're seeing, the CEO of AMC is becoming not a household name, but known certainly to people who pay attention to the business, even outside of the business. And, of course, Hollywood still has streaming where they don't have to answer to nobody except the consumer. But this is why studios like streaming so much. But as they've discovered, streaming is not quite as profitable as they'd hoped just yet, because it also requires a tremendous amount of spend to compete with Netflix, who has, Netflix is just a streaming service, although maybe there's soon going to be more. Maybe, we'll see. But they don't have the overhead that other studios do for all the businesses that they're still in. So, studios aren't going to give up on their streaming services, but you can still make an awful lot of money, they've been reminded, off of traditional distribution methods. Streaming hasn't killed the movie theater experience, but it certainly is changing it. But as for network television, well, there's a very decent chance that streaming and the government are in the process of killing that as we speak. I never see any studio heads, interestingly enough, at the White House, but I sure do see a lot of tech titans. And what do you know? Which way is the situation tilting? Elon Musk and, Mark Zuckerberg and Jeff Bezos have also joined in, but they swung, Musk and Zuckerberg swung social media over to the Republican Party. And, look who's in the process of aggressively buying up Hollywood and also has strong ties to the Republican Party, the Ellisons. Yes, as technology continues to evolve exponentially, we're picking up some major speed right now with AI, it has had profound effects on a number of businesses. Music was the first to be fundamentally altered. And music was like, look out, everybody else. Technology's coming for you. And everybody was like, either people were like, they didn't believe music, or they were like, shut up, music. Like, don't you dare jinx us. Now, everybody was like, well, next will be movies and TV. And next might be movies and TV. But between music and movies and TV, the news business was gutted by technology, which people are only starting now to realize after the last presidential election. I mean, some people would be like, I knew it, but the powers that be didn't know it. That was a major wake-up call. Taylor Swift, Japanese anime. Let's throw K-pop in here because old school Hollywood counted it out. This is what's dominating the entertainment headlines right now. And at this crucial time, what a time for Hollywood to whiff it at the box office, not once but twice in the same frickin' weekend. 2 major Hollywood releases from Jordan Peele and Barbie. Total flops. While Demon Slayer, for that Japanese anime movie, still number 1, and that's with a 75% drop. Movie fell 75%, still number 1. And that's because everybody, and I do mean everybody, from critics to the audience, hated these 2 new movies. In fact, the stink coming off of them was so great that people, for the most part, didn't even bother to try them. Usually Hollywood gets a couple of diehards, especially with now our movie theater. That's right, these 2 movies weren't even AMC A-list worthy. People are like, no thanks. And because of the proliferation, thanks to technology, of other things for you to be able to do over the weekend, you didn't have to watch these movies. You could wait for them or on digital or streaming, or maybe not even watch them ever at all. At least Him didn't have a totally embarrassing opening, as opposed to Big, Bold, Beautiful Journey, which seems to have failed in every single way possible. It was supposed to be a play for female audiences to a degree, and women were the majority, but none of them showed up. It debuted so low. It's ridiculous. What is going on with Jordan Peele? Dude turned down X-Men for this? This is what's happening, and his upcoming film was just delayed that he's directing? Although, considering how things are going, maybe X-Men lucked out. Sure, Peele is only a producer here, but hey, he and Universal aggressively used his name to sell this movie, so he's got to own the result, good or bad. I've told you before, never take on all of it yourself. You might be like, James Gunn did, and it turned out pretty good for him. But sometimes it does not turn out. So I always feel that you should mitigate the risk a little bit. It didn't turn out for Patty Jenkins either, right? Mitigate the risk a tiny bit by bringing in some other people. Why not? Hollywood's a business of relationships. Help some other people, right? Also, I know a lot of you love to say that movie stars are no longer a thing. And maybe they're not, but box office poison's still a thing. Right after that Barbie blip, Ryan Gosling went right back not to being able to sell movie tickets. Now let's talk about some other stars who can now sell tickets. Marlon Wayans, it's been 20 years since the heyday of the Wayans brothers, and their specialty was comedy. But thankfully for Marlon Wayans, everybody's at least saying he's the best thing in this new movie. So even though it seems to be a big flop, his team can be like, hey, Marlon, at least it's putting you back out in the public eye in a big way, and people are saying good stuff about you, including me. I thought he was really good in the movie. It's his movie, really. Because he's getting ready to come back in a major way with this return of his Scary Movie franchise, where he'll appear on screen and he's also writing and producing. So it's not ideal to launch a comeback, but I don't think it's not game over. I don't think it's game over for Tyreek Withers either, because hotties get extra lives in Hollywood. Also, he already has another movie in the can, also for Universal, this time a romantic drama, which hopefully does a lot better. I think it'll be harder for him to sign on for a project in the interim. We'll see, though. We'll see. Now, as for Big, Bold, Beautiful Journey, we've been new that Colin Farrell can't sell a movie ticket unless he's buried under mountains of latex and prosthetics. And even then, he only gets awards because don't forget the Penguins ratings were only okay. They weren't embarrassing, but they weren't great either. They kind of rallied at the end. But wow, Margot Robbie, what's going on over here? We also know, though, that now that she's Barbie rich, she's resuming her pursuit of Oscar, right? That's all that's missing. But she's got 2 problems here. Although, of course, I'd love to hear what you think are her problems in this area. 1, she has absolutely zero ability to pick a non-blockbuster script for herself to star in. She's an excellent producer when she's not going to be in the movie herself. But she cannot pick. And 2, nobody wants to see her act, like act. That's not what people want from Margot Robbie. And you know what? That's okay. There's nothing wrong with being a movie star. It's something that few people can do. I would say especially these days, even fewer people can be movie stars than can win an Oscar. So she should enjoy it while she can. She signed on for Tim Burton's Attack of the 50-Foot Woman, and I think that is an amazing project for her. Because Robbie has a very similar look to another fantastic collaborator with Tim Burton, Ms. Michelle Pfeiffer. As I've often pointed out, actors build careers with strong director partnerships. Emerald Fennell ain't gonna do it for you, Margot Robbie. I would run away from Emerald Fennell if I were you. The producing was okay, but I wouldn't star in any of her movies, especially since she seems to have lost whatever ability she had with Promising Young Woman. And that didn't win any awards anyway. Also, actors can follow in the footsteps of a similar actor to them from a previous generation, or even a couple generations ago. Case in point, George Clooney and Cary Grant. Robbie should be modeling her career after Michelle Pfeiffer, who is a Hollywood icon and got 3 Oscar nominations, but never to this day has managed to win one. Robbie also, by the way, has 3 Oscar noms, 2 for acting, 1 for producing for Barbie. I'm not saying Margot Robbie's never going to win an Oscar, but I think it's going to be a really long time from now when she's much older and no longer in her bombshell era. It's tough for bombshells to be taken seriously. Look back at Some Like It Hot. Almost everybody in that movie and associated with that movie was nominated for an Oscar, except for Marilyn Monroe, despite an incredible, masterful, comedic, and dramatic performance where her character had real vulnerability. Hollywood didn't care. No nomination. What career advice would you give Margot Robbie post Barbie? I think one of the biggest problems about these 2 movies is that they just stink. And to think, a few days ago, I was feeling bad that I didn't have enough Rotten Tomatoes scores that I hand out. I was like, am I too nice as a critic? Because I try to give the benefit of the doubt. It's hard to hit a movie with a Rotten Tomato. I know some of you are like, give me the tomatoes, I'll do it. But when you actually have to throw it, it feels different. But this weekend, it was easy to hit these 2 movies with a Rotten Tomato and The Long Walk. But anyway, I hope you'll subscribe for my candid, honest, and fun coverage of the movie and TV business. And if you hit that little bell next to the subscribe button, you'll not only know as soon as my videos go up, but you'll get a 30-minute advance notice of whenever I'm about to go live. All right, so in a business where the theatrical space is becoming more and more about events, these 2 movies definitely don't qualify as events. I don't even know if they qualify as something you'd want to watch on digital and streaming, as I said. Are you going to circle back to either of these movies, or are you like, no thanks? All right, but Taylor Swift's official album release party? Now there's an event. Oh boy! It's one weekend only, October 3rd, 4th, and 5th. And Swift in one day sold $15 million worth of tickets and is looking at a weekend haul of anywhere from 30 to 50 million. I hope it's on the higher end of that projection and maybe even higher than that, because she wouldn't want to lose too much ground from her historic opening with the Eras Tour movie, in 2023, which opened with 93 million, which to date is still also in October, by the way, and is the 2nd highest opening ever for the month. You don't want to lose too much ground. Now, Swift had wanted all the premium screens for the weekend. I think all the movies are like $14 and change. It's a number that's meaningful to Taylor. But I think there's a slight upcharge for premium. But that is amazing that she can gross that much money with a significantly depreciated, well, I don't know, in some parts of the country, that's more than a usual movie ticket, right? In New York, it is a very cheap ticket. All right, so she wanted all the premium screens, and she was able to get them back in 2023 because she was the savior of October 2023. That month was horrible for Hollywood until the end when Five Nights at Freddy's, also an event, came in and made a lot of money for Halloween weekend. But this year, Hollywood's like, Tay-Tay, we planned stuff. One battle after another will only be in its 2nd weekend at that point. And it has that's the only other weekend it gets for its IMAX screens, because then Tron Ares is going to come in there and take them all up. So Warner Brothers was like, get out of here, Taylor. They would not give her any IMAX screens. And it's bad enough already, by the way, that Warner Brothers will have to give a showing here and there to Disney for the Avatar 2 re-release. So Taylor Swift couldn't get IMAX, but she's dominating in Dolby. In many theaters, she has the Dolby screen all day long, but in some areas, she does have to share it. She got non-premium like screening, like she has earlier in the day showtimes or very late, where the main 7 or 8 o'clock showtime is going to go to maybe The Smashing Machine or One Battle After Another if it ends up being a huge hit like Sinners and there's demand. A lot of times the premium screens will have a contract. I'm sure One Battle After Another, probably that's another issue, that Warner Brothers has a contract for that movie with IMAX. But sometimes the premium screen company will wait to see what's the hot movie. Again, the power of the distributor flexing their muscles. They decide, not the studios, as to what they want to put on their screens. But still, even with the slight setback with premium screens, Taylor Swift is likely going to have an opening weekend bigger than any of these movies and might even outgross them despite being a one weekend only event, whereas they shall play in movie theaters for weeks, if not months. Swift and Beyonce changed the game when it comes to tours, and both brought their tours to the multiplex so that everybody could have a chance to experience them or to re-experience it. But an album release party in theaters? Oh, this is an even bigger deal in my opinion. Now, they revealed what's going to be in this Taylor Swift album release party. It's basically a music video debut, behind the scenes footage for making that music video, and then interviews with Taylor Swift, etc. That's not hard to duplicate by a whole range of music stars. Putting on this huge tour and filming it, that is difficult to do. That really minimizes who can make the most of that opportunity or even participate. But this is very doable. Now, for instance, it wasn't theatrical, but over the weekend, Bad Bunny closed out his Puerto Rico residency with a live stream on Amazon Prime on Saturday evening. And I saw him trending like crazy on social media. I love Bad Bunny. Could Bad Bunny do a theatrical event next, right? Especially as he does more and more in Hollywood. He's racking up big screen roles, and he's already an SNL staple and will host. Who's kicking off the new season on October 4th? Actually, Taylor Swift weekend, by the way. That's interesting. That's Bad Bunny. That's a whole weekend where the big names are going to be music performers. That's incredible. Although Bad Bunny's trying to make the jump to movies. Taylor Swift has tried as well. Hasn't gone so great, but she's not going to give up. I'm sure that she's hoping this will help as well with these big theatrical releases. By the way, speaking of Saturday Night Live, the Five Timers Club, Dwayne Johnson is the only person of color who is a member of that group. But I think that while Pedro Pascal's only a 1, and this will be Bad Bunny's only second time hosting, they're so popular over there. I bet that a 5-timer jacket is in their futures. As for the overall top 10, it ain't pretty. This is about half of what Hollywood earned just last weekend, when September was on a roll. Remember our conversation just a week ago? Talk about coming to a screeching halt. Can Leonardo DiCaprio in One Battle After Another pick things up again this coming weekend? I don't know, man. At least The Conjuring, I'd be curious to hear your thoughts on that. At least The Conjuring 4 is still making money, now the most successful film in the franchise by far. While speaking of other franchises, maybe this is the last Downton Abbey movie, at least in theaters. I'd probably make one still for Peacock maybe in about 5 or 10 years. I'm telling you, Lady Mary's turning into Maggie Smith's role on there, and that'll be the next movie when they wait just a little bit and she's the new Maggie Smith. All right, but good news, Long Walk fans. While I didn't care for the film, I can deliver some good news for those of you who did. That it has not a bad hold for its second weekend, and that's a very good sign, especially for down the line on digital and streaming. Meanwhile, this is fascinating. Angel Studios is still trying, but they cannot duplicate the success they had with Sound of Freedom or even come anywhere close. But Sound of Freedom's success came largely from crowdfunding, and that's something that Angel Studios has continued to do with their movies, but again, not to the same level of Sound of Freedom. But now they're trying to do crowdfunding in a different way, so to speak, and not for a specific film, but for themselves. And that's by going public in the stock market. They're like, forget movie tickets. That's the problem. I mean, I guess they feel you could own a part of Angel Studios, but their slate isn't that exciting. It's one thing to say, hey, do you want to buy a ticket for this movie to have someone else go and see it? What do you think? Did any of you buy Angel Studios stock? If you did, you sure didn't spend very much because it doesn't seem to be, at least out of the gate, going very well. Speaking of conservative content, Daniel Live, distributed by Fathom Events based on the biblical story, just made it into the top 10, but is in the top 10. Do you want a wider range of films and shows coming, I guess not out of Hollywood, because that's the whole conversation we're having. Do you want them coming to you, right? And if Hollywood won't deliver this different types of content, should distributors, are you in favor of them turning to outside content creators? Over on streaming, I've got good news and bad news, genre fans. The good news is that Alien Earth is holding on, baby. After its not so great debut last week on Nielsen charts, I think a lot of us were concerned that it would just fall off the charts like a rock, even the originals chart. But it's still there, barely, but it's there. The season finale is this Tuesday. Let the binge begin, please. Go back to Alien Earth or give it a chance. It's such a good show, and I think it is a better binge than week to week. Now, what's the bad news? Well, Peacemaker couldn't chart its debut week. Now, on the one hand, back when season 1 of Peacemaker came out, I said that while it had a strong fan base, I said it was a niche show. And that made James Gunn really upset. That's where that awful quote comes from. It was just his word against my analysis because Max wasn't included in the Nielsen charts back then. But it is now. However, to be fair, in season 2's defense, it dropped with just one episode. Close to an hour, but just one episode. Alien Earth dropped with 2. And as you can see, no show on this chart is working with just one episode. I mean, if it was a huge hit, like Game of Thrones, House of the Dragon, or The Last of Us season 1, or the beginning of season 2, you could chart with a single episode. But Peacemaker, we all knew it wasn't going to be that type of show. It's still not great that it couldn't even get at the bottom of this chart because look how low the bar is. But I wouldn't rule out that in the weeks ahead, particularly as we hit episodes 6 through 8, which Gunn has said are real doozies. Episode 6 is this Thursday. Maybe it will chart. I mean, if Peacemaker doesn't chart by the end of season 2, then we have a real problem. Because again, as I said, look at how low this chart is. You know, it shouldn't be that hard to get on it, particularly once Peacemaker starts banking episodes. We'll see. I do think that it will. I mean, you never know. I mean, I was surprised that Daredevil never charted, so I guess Peacemaker might be in good company. It could happen. I'd be very surprised, but we were surprised earlier with Daredevil. On the overall chart, Netflix still rules with Wednesday and its hot new IP, K-pop Demon Hunters. While The Summer I Turned Pretty still continues to have become a huge hit for Prime Video. Not its first season, but its first season, I think, being a hit. Next up for the series that just wrapped this latest season, even though they run out of books to adapt, Prime Video will close out the series with a movie event on streaming or in theaters? Probably just on streaming. But would you pay to see the movie finale of The Summer I Turned Pretty in theaters? Speaking of movies, here's the streaming movie chart for mid-August, and, you know, very slow outside of K-pop Demon Hunters, as you can see. Over on Netflix's charts for just this past week, K-pop Demon Hunters has sailed past 300 million views overall. My goodness, that puts it 100 million, almost 100 million views ahead of the runner-up, Red Notice. That's not just impressive, but it's going to make it very hard for any other movie to catch it and replace it as number 1. The repeat watchability on this thing. Netflix has found their babysitter movie. But what's funny here is that it's also a babysitter movie, I think, for adults. Such a good film. I wonder how fast they can get another one up. We've heard no news of, maybe they don't want, maybe they, you know, it might be another situation where they want to just, I think they're really focusing on trying to get the Oscar nominations and maybe a win. All right, so it's not going to slow down because it's still posting over 20 million views per week in its 13th week on the service. Miranda Cosgrove and Charlie Sheen did okay with their new movies, but they're no Millie Bobby Brown or Sophia Carson, true Netflix stars. They could get there though. And Thursday Murder Club, it's holding up. It's not great, but I think it's okay. I think it has such big star power and it's such a big brand. They didn't get it perfect, but I think there's real potential there. So sometimes Netflix takes a very long time with renewal announcements. Look how long it took for Department Q, but we got there. So I have faith that Thursday Murder Club will get a sequel. With shows, Wednesday Season 2 Part 2 continues to be surprisingly weak, but at least Season 2 overall finally climbed onto the all-time chart. So that, helps it save a little bit of face, even though it's not I do wonder if they're going to change the release strategy for Stranger Things after this. They better make up their minds fast. One of the problems, I think, was don't promise Lady Gaga if you don't really have Lady Gaga in your second season. Were you happy with the Lady Gaga cameo? Do you think she should have had more scenes? Do you think she should have danced or sung a song? I mean, I love these other characters, but how do you have the new dance without Wednesday or Lady Gaga? Live boxing continues to be huge for Netflix, and Tyler Perry continues to consistently deliver for them. Over on digital with Apple's charts, there must be a glitch, because what happened to F1? I don't think it could have totally fallen out of the top 10 when it was just at the top all of a sudden. But what did just drop is the price for Mission Impossible Final Reckoning, which is why it's back at number 1. Jurassic World Rebirth is also back up towards the top because it had a price drop as well. Weapons continues to do quite well, having just hit digital, while Superman just hit streaming on HBO Max, which is why it's dropped a little bit here. And it's lovely to see one of Robert Redford's most famous films in the top 10 right after his passing. In fact, if you go to the top 20, a lot of people are watching his movies, which I think is beautiful. I think tonight I might watch 3 Days of the Condor, because that's one of his films, one of the few films of his I haven't seen. And I want to know, did you watch any movies this week in memory of Robert Redford? And which would you recommend? What's your favorite Robert Redford movie? As for this coming week, boy, is there a lot of pressure on Warner Brothers. They need their streak to continue. So does One Battle After Another. Who wants to be the movie that ends Warner Brothers' streak? It needs to open at number 1. I think it can do that. And with over 40 million, that second one might be a little bit too much to ask, even with Leonardo DiCaprio, because it has amazing reviews, but it's an extremely political film. I'm very curious to see what the general public reaction is going to be to this film. Then we've got another horror movie, The Strangers Chapter 2, and Universal brings Gabby's Dollhouse to the big screen with Kristen Wiig in villain mode. I gotta tell you, I think she looks kind of fabulous. And speaking of awards season, Scarlett Johansson's directorial debut gets a limited release. On digital on Tuesday, Fantastic Four finally comes to the small screen as Disney refuses to blink when it comes to, shortening their theatrical window. I don't know. A lot of other movies do very well with the shortened theatrical window, and it's not like you can point to Fantastic Four being a success story at the box office. I mean, it's pretty bad. All right, then with streaming movies, Netflix has another rom-com, this time from France, with another of their stars, Omar Sy. All right, then with shows, a lot of shows. Tulsa King is back tonight on Paramount+, while on Wednesday, all of the Marvel Zombies episodes, all 4 of them, drop on Disney+. While Prime Video also drops an entire season, this time for Hotel Costiera. And Shark Tank returns to ABC, its first season without Mark Cuban. Are you going to watch without Mark Cuban? I think they're going to be surprised. Although I did stop watching Shark Tank, I'd say about 1 season ago. I think when Mark Cuban announced he was going to leave, and I was like, how is he still here? The spell's broken. Also on Wednesday, a new season of Slow Horses starts, and I finally started to watch it. What finally got me to watch it? Well, at the Emmys, in the directing for a drama episode category, I was shocked that Slow Horses won over so many other incredible shows. I was like, is it really that good? It is! Thank you to everybody who kept insisting that I check this out. I am loving it. In 1 week, because the Emmys were just a week ago, I have watched seasons 1 and 2. In fact, I binged most of season 2 last night because it's like the British 24. They really know how to end an episode. I love it. And so if you haven't started Slow Horses yet, I recommend you, because I think I'll be caught up to season 4 pretty fast. All right. Then I think this is actually season 5 coming up. All right. So anyway, then on Thursday, Netflix drops 2 new shows at the same time, although I don't think they have the same audience, Wayward, and then basically Irish Succession with House of Guinness. Finally, on Friday, Jessica Chastain gets her own series on Apple TV. And that's this week's Movie Math. What have you been watching? What do you plan to watch? And what do you think is going to happen to traditional Hollywood going forward?